Help me, Dr. Zaius.
The 17th century fictional city of Grant has succumbed to a mysterious, maddening fog. It is said to have been caused by the great alchemist Mephisto, who's also provided an antidote to its effects. God complex much? Anyway, this has turned most of the people and dogs, you heard right, into a deadly cult of fanatics. As a result, the rest of the civilians have locked themselves up in their homes for safety. It sounds like a more extreme version of the times we live in now, but who knows what the future holds? A squad of 4 mercenaries, led by yourself, are hired to help the resistance fend off this threat. You do this by exploring the city to find the source of the fog and put a stop to it. But can it run a potato? Black Legend proves you don't always need stellar visuals to make an engaging experience. The trailer got slated by gamers for its potato graphics, with many comparing it to a PlayStation 3 title, and they're right. What they shouldn't be doing is writing it off. After all, plenty of popular games have simplistic graphics. Just look at Minecraft, Among Us and Roblox. Unless you're reading from the future, let us know if everyone drives flying cars yet. Can't fix, won't fix. I'll address the numerous little UI bugs and graphical glitches that I expect will be patched later in updates. Every time the world loads up, the textures are applied a few seconds later. Occasionally patrolling enemies will walk into each other. Dogs have a jarring walk animation. In battle, sometimes one of your team or the enemy will awkwardly climb random objects. When receiving items, an icon will appear in the top right corner. In small text, it's difficult to read. Recruiting someone to the barracks always creates a clone of themselves. Sometimes when using the controller, the cursor tends to get stuck outside the battlefield, so I have to finish the battle using the keyboard and mouse. The game crashed a few times during the playthrough. This is how Black Legend looks every time before the textures are loaded in. Pretty ugly, as you can see. Those are the main issues anyway. On the plus side, since Black Legend looks like a PlayStation 3 game, it'll run smoother on a low-end gaming PC. The city looks like what you'd expect in the 17th century, dull and dreary. Maybe a little too much. The city is so grey and lifeless it could be mistaken for a low-quality image, but at least it fits the theme of a regressing old city. But let's take a step back there, bucko. Before you start, there's a limited character creator to mess around with, which is a fun distraction. Then the game begins. In the city, cultists patrol every corner. Each one is surrounded by a red circle showing their visibility. It's a bit daft considering you can stand in front of them just outside the circle and they won't see you. That's RPG logic for you. Once you are seen, you're taken to the strategy game screen. Here you position where you want your troops to be, then the fight begins. Next, you and the AI take turns controlling one of your team members to move and attack like some intricate chess match. You direct each member in order, so your custom character is always used first. Though that's not all you'll be fighting. Occasionally the camera will want to tussle. Afterwards, enemies usually drop loot after being killed. A battle can take place anywhere in the city. Figure it out! To Black Legend's credit, unlike a lot of modern titles, it doesn't treat you like an idiot. There's no convenient map or magic marker that'll show you exactly where you need to go. You have to read the signposts throughout the city and navigate yourself like a normal person. Also, forget about free healing, which is common in RPGs like Pokemon. There's not even a random bed or a healing lady that'll make you whole again. Instead, you need to find potions or a nail to hammer a coin into a tree. Excluding hard mode, you can revive a fainted ally, but you'll struggle to raise money for the revive elixir early game. Black Legend maintains plenty of autosave files, so if you come across a game-breaking bug and need to load your last save, you won't lose much progress. It's almost like they knew their game would cause problems. Don't skip the tutorial. Black Legend makes the mistake of dumping a lengthy tutorial on you in the first 10 minutes of the game. As a result, this doesn't give the player enough time to take in all the game mechanics. Instead, there should have been a short tutorial for each game mechanic as you progress through the story. These scenarios would then require you to complete a tutorial each time to make sure you understand all of the mechanics. In essence, it's easier to learn by doing rather than just reading about it. Hear that, teachers? What developers Warcave do right is provide an option to skip the tutorial. This is great for returning players. Also, you can access notes in the menu which condenses what the tutorials taught you. The elixir of life. What took me a while to wrap my tiny mind around was using alchemy, which you are expected to master. Don't get too excited. You don't actually see any hard magic, as the developers call it. To summarize, abilities can be used to stack 4 different coloured humours on an enemy. Combining a matching power with a catalyzing attack does extra damage. Confused? I don't blame you. Black Legend doesn't explain this aspect very well. And that's too bad, because it's actually an interesting mechanic that adds flavour to the combat. To further this feat, you can switch any of your members between 15 fighter classes on the fly. As you'd expect, this is a lot. As a bonus, a character learns abilities while fighting as another class, while using a particular weapon after a period of time, which they can then use as they switch to another class. Still not with me? Trust me, it's cool. Though to be honest, even with the variety, combat started feeling repetitive and samey after around 10 hours. This is due to most enemies using similar attack patterns throughout the game. As your party levels up, so do the cultists. Even so, I found using the same strategy against each wave of these fanatics dealt with them pretty quickly. Later on, the enemy should at least throw a curveball at you to catch you off guard, but they don't do that. As you'd expect, Black Legend gets easier the further you progress, when it should be the opposite.
Oh my god, I love your accent.
Black Legend is fully voice acted, though some of it sounds like someone putting on a silly voice rather than having an authentic accent.
Grant is beyond saving, I tell you. If the fog doesn't kill you, the bleeding Mephistians will. Them nutters actually worship the fog and the madman that created it.
I personally find it charming, but I can see it breaking some players' immersion, among other things. I also noticed some of the characters are voiced by the same guy. Bizarrely, he doesn't even bother to change the inflection in his voice. His voice is almost as monotone as mine. Black Legend uses ambient music to convey the misery and dire straits the city has fallen under. Sound effects are alright, except in combat, where the enemies don't even make a noise until they die. My verdict: despite its flaws, I would class Black Legend as a future, dare I say, hidden gem. But the graphics and voice acting, I hear you cry. Yes, the models are low res for 2021 and they are a bit jittery. That aside, the rundown 17th century city is designed just how I would expect it to look for that time period. As for the voice acting, well, it's an acquired taste. The main selling point is the gameplay of this strategy RPG. Switch between 15 classes, all with their own set of abilities and weapons they can use. You also mix different alchemy together and catalyze them on your opponent for massive damage. There's plenty of main story missions and side quests, even if they do get repetitive eventually. Enemy types, weapons, civilians and parts of the city all have a bit of lore to them as well. Look past the game's faults and you should be entertained for at least a few hours. That's more than what you can say for some other games. I give Black Legend a 6 out of 10. It's a B and it's satisfactory. That's all from me. Does this look like a title you guys want to play? Can a game with underwhelming graphics still be fun? And what is your favourite class and ability?